So this is going to be a video on how I add fresh water to our tank in the RV during the winter while the temperatures are below freezing. Oh. So right now it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and the temperature is only 28 degrees. And it got down to 1 degree below zero last night. So chances are the ground here is still very, very cold. Probably colder than the air temperature out here. I brought a laser thermometer. Let's hit the snow here and see just how cold it still is in the shade. Right along here is where I'm going to lay out the hose. So let's go ahead and take another temp reading. 19 degrees. 3 degrees. 3 degrees. Look at that, 3.3 degrees. I'm going to show you how to hook up fresh water and get fresh water to flow through that into that RV through a pump without freezing. So let me show you how to do it. It's actually not going to take very long. Okay, step one, your water filter and your pump need to be in a heated space. Okay, you cannot have those below freezing. You have to keep these in a heated space so they're above freezing. I had an electric heater running in here and I had this space up to over 50 degrees, so I know these are not frozen. Okay, so that's step one. I'm going to close the hatch here and keep those in the heat until I actually use them. Step two, you need a good garden hose. I use a drinking water quality hose. This is the Flexzilla hose. This is imperative. This is one of the most important things. This hose has got to start out completely empty. If there is any water in this, it'll freeze before I have a chance to get this going. So this hose is completely empty. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this hose out completely and leave it empty. And then I'm going to set up the water filter and the pump. And then I'm going to run the water through this hose. And while the water is actually running out of the hose, while it's still running, I'm going to hook it up and start pumping it. I'm not going to let the water sit in the hose, and that is key. So let me show you how this is done. Okay, now for me, next step is going to be to take my insulated cover off of my valve. And you can see, look at that, see? The dirt under there is not frozen, and it got down to 0 last night. So I know that I'm good to go. Okay, the next thing is to hook up the hose. Okay, and I made sure to not get any snow in the ends. If I had to let any snow get in these ends, they're gonna be frozen, and then there's no way to get water through here. We're gonna go walk over now, and we're gonna get everything else set up, and then I'm gonna turn the water on. So we're gonna come back. So far, there's still no water in here yet. And you can see here, the hose is just sitting in the snow. If I let the water just sit in this hose, that'll freeze up pretty quick. I mean, think about it. There's a couple of spots I got there that were 3 degrees. 3 degrees. All right, so let me show you how this is done. Okay, now my pump has been sitting in the heat, and the pump is dry. I drained this completely last time. So I'm gonna set it down over here for a moment. All right, I'm gonna clear all this snow off of here. A lot of good it did to keep this freaking, well, as you can see, I just got snow all over the pump. It's not perfect. All right, let's get the filter set up. And now I'm trying to move quickly, okay? I don't want to take a long time here. Now I'm set up to turn on the water, so I'm going to go turn on the water and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to turn the water on, and we should see water shooting out of there in just a minute. So now I'm connecting the pump to my filter. Okay, you can see I now have water flowing from my tank through the hose over ground that is below 10 degrees. See that? As long as you keep the water moving, it doesn't freeze. Now I'm gonna hook it up immediately to the pump. Okay, and now I'm gonna immediately turn the pump on. I'm not gonna waste any time. Man, it's so hard to work with gloves on. Okay. All right, there it is. Pump is on. There we go. Okay, so I'll come up here and you can see I'm pumping water through a two-stage filter. Uh-oh. I dropped these connections in the snow and now they don't want to go together. Okay, I got them back together and I got it pumping again. So you can see my freshwater tank is already full up here, so looks like I need to add about 25 gallons, maybe actually about 30 gallons. Okay, let's take the laser thermometer and let's get a reading of the outside of the body of the pump. Whoa, 12 degrees. Look at that. Okay, let's get a reading of this fitting right here that the water's going through. 8 degrees, look at that. Okay, let's get a reading of the outside of the filter bodies. Look at that. 12 degrees, 10 degrees. So even after I heated them up, still, it is just frigid out here. And the only reason why that water is not freezing is because it's moving. Just like how a creek can move underneath a frozen top when it's 45, 50, 60 degrees below zero. It's the same thing. So I'm showing you right here, okay? Even when the outside of the actual hoses themselves are really, really cold, look at that, 13 degrees. It's still not freezing. I'm still pumping in water. Let me show you. I'll show you proof, okay? Look at that. It's still pumping. I mean, that water is freaking cold, really cold. Yeah, laser thermometers like this, it only measures the surface temperature of whatever the laser hits. It doesn't measure the air temperature, so it's not quite a true reading. A lot of times the surface temperature can be a lot colder than the air, but it's cold out here. The surfaces that this water is flowing over are well below freezing, down in the single digits and teens, and we're still pumping water. Here, just to show you how cold it still is out here, look. Nothing is thawed out. It is well below freezing out here, especially in the shade. In fact, let's hit the surface temperature of this trailer hitch right here. 18 degrees. Just like that, my tank is full, 25 gallons added. So let me show you what I do to get this all put away so that I can use it again next time, regardless of how cold it is. Step 1, disconnect the pump. Step 2, turn off the water. I'm gonna get the pump and the water filter drained and put away first. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect the pump hose. Okay. So no matter what you do, the most important thing is drain the pump completely. You don't want to leave any water in there whatsoever, okay? And I'm still gonna leave this also in a heated space, but just in case if it freezes, okay? If you have water inside of your pump and it freezes, chances are your pump's gonna be done. They're not designed to have the expansion of freezing. So, all right, there it is. I've got all that stuff put away. So the last thing I have to do is drain the hose, and I'm going to show you that. That is the most important thing you can do. Okay, this might sound strange, and believe me, it's only gonna waste about a half gallon of water. First thing I'm gonna do is turn this water on. I want this to be flowing when I turn it off. Once again, we don't wanna let water sit in that hose for too long or it's gonna freeze and we won't be able to get it out. Then the only thing you're gonna be able to do is you're gonna have to take your hose inside to like the, put it in front of the heater or put it inside of the bathtub or something to thaw it out. No fun. First thing to do is get the water unhooked. So I'm turning the water off completely. Okay, I've got that turned off completely now. Okay, now I'm gonna show you the most important step to getting every single drop of water out of this hose so that the next time we go to use it, it doesn't have any ice blockage, okay? Even if you leave just, 3 or 4 tablespoons of water in this thing, okay? That's gonna be a blockage this big of solid ice. You'll never get out of there, okay? And it ends up being in the middle of the hose where you won't be able to get to it. Then you're gonna have to thaw it out, all right? This is how it's done. You start out with one end up high, okay? Remember, I have the other end of the hose open so the water can drain out, okay? So now I'm going to raise this up over my head and I'm gonna keep doing that. Now, I'm gonna take this end and I'm gonna secure it to something so that snow doesn't get in it, okay? If I drop this on the ground right now and I get snow into that end, this thing's plugged up, okay? So I'm gonna put it onto the trailer that's sitting next to me in a way that this will not touch the ground. I just keep lifting the hose up above my head. And you can see I'm just continuing to slowly raise the hose up above my head, and I'm letting the part that's already been up in the air go back down to the ground behind me, okay? What I'm doing is I'm using gravity. I'm basically making the water run down a giant hill until it runs all the way out of the hose. And I'm gonna keep doing this until I get all the way to the end. It doesn't matter if snow builds up on the outside of the hose, it's not going to make any difference. The water inside the hose is running out. I did that nice and slowly. And I know now that 100% of the water is out of this hose, okay? Also, I'm gonna make sure to not drop this end into the snow because this will get packed with ice just as easily, okay? So I need to go walk this over to the other end of the hose, okay? And I need to make sure that both ends are secured before I start rolling this up, all right? I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna take this end and I'm going to secure it here on the trailer so that it can't go anywhere. Okay, I'm going to take this end and I'm going to flatten out an area of snow so that it's kind of flat like concrete, so I can set this end down and it won't pick up any snow, okay? I know this kind of sounds a little crazy, but trust me, there's a reason why. You don't want to let any snow get in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my foot on top of this hose and see how it keeps the end off the ground. Now I know it's not going to move no matter what I do. So now I'm going to roll up this hose. And if you notice, it looks like I'm doing a strange thing. I'm doing an old school hose wrap. It was actually created a long time ago by divers, okay? What you do is you make one loop go over the top and one loop go under. And then one loop go over the top and one loop go under. What it does is it makes your hose not get a memory. You know how when you buy a new hose, you have to spend a year unraveling it because it always wants to coil back up? Well, all you're doing with this is you're taking each coil and you're making one coil to the left, one coil to the right. One coil to the left, one coil to the right. They cancel each other out and you end up with a hose that wants to stay straight, unwound. It doesn't want to coil up. And you take a lot less chances of your hose ever kinking. when you do this. Loops that want to stay in the hose are what makes kinks. And no, I was not a diver. This is kind of the equivalent of braiding your extension cords, okay? Anybody who's worked construction, who's braided extension cords knows what I'm talking about. You braid an extension cord, it doesn't matter if it's 400 feet long, it never gets tangled up. But if you don't braid even a 30-foot extension cord, you're gonna be untangling it. It's just how the Murphy's Law, it's how the world works. Okay, so you can see I now have this hose coiled up. This is 150 feet of hose, okay? I filled it up with water, ran it through ground that was below 10 degrees, pumped 25 gallons of water through it, through a filter where the outside of the filter housing and the outside of the hoses were below 20 degrees, and I've got it all emptied, coiled up. Now I'm going to put it away, and I just store this in the cold shipping container. My trick is I either put this inside of a heated space with the other stuff for 20 minutes beforehand, or I usually just set it out in the sun. But anyway, that's how it's done. I hope this helps everybody out there who has trouble adding or transferring water in sub-freezing temperatures. Even when the temperatures were a lot colder than I thought they were going to be, we still had no problem moving water. And that procedure would be the same even if you were using containers, okay? Now my suggestion if you're going to be using containers is keep the containers inside with you where they don't freeze. You need that water to keep it from freezing. I also have a suggestion for people who use the ICB totes who are having trouble with them freezing right now. Something you might want to try, I mean, it may be a little expensive, but you could always stack hay bales or straw bales around it. That stuff generates its own heat. You can also bury them in the ground, okay? And then cover the top section of them with straw and then pump out of them. So those are two ways that you can keep that water from freezing even if we get down at, 10 below. So I hope this helps y'all. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.